The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers and clattered against the concrete floor of my garage. Midnight again, and here I was, elbow deep in the engine of my pickup truck, trying to forget another day of Kayla's cold shoulders and mysterious phone calls. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead like an angry wasp, casting harsh shadows across my tools. "Aaron, you out here?" Kayla's voice drifted through the side door, sickeningly sweet. She only used that tone when she wanted something. I wiped my hands on an oil-stained rag and turned around. There she stood in the doorway, perfectly put together even at this hour, hair styled, makeup fresh, wearing that expensive blouse I'd never seen before. My wife of 18 years, looking like she was headed to a business meeting instead of bed. "What's up?" I asked, though part of me already dreaded the answer. She stepped into the garage, her heels clicking against the concrete. "I have a surprise for you. I booked us on that show, Cheaters. You know, the one where they follow couples around to see if they're faithful." The rag fell from my hands. "You what?" "The crew starts following you tomorrow morning. Should be interesting, don't you think?" Her smile was razor sharp. I figured it would be fun to prove how boring and predictable your life really is. My mind raced. Kayla, who hadn't shown genuine interest in our marriage for months, suddenly wanted cameras following us around. The same Kayla who'd been working late every night, who'd changed her phone password, who'd started buying new clothes and wearing perfume to the office. "Why would you do that without asking me?" I managed to keep my voice steady, but inside, pieces were clicking together like a jigsaw puzzle. "Because I knew you'd say no. You never want to do anything exciting." She examined her manicured nails. "Besides, what do you have to hide? All you do is work in this garage, watch sports, and drink beer." The condescension in her voice hit me like a slap. This was the woman I'd put through college while working double shifts at the plant. The woman I'd supported when she decided to switch careers and become a real estate agent. The woman who now looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. "When does filming start?" I asked. 8 a.m. sharp. They want to capture your whole routine." She turned to leave, then paused. "Try not to embarrass me, Aaron. Some of my colleagues might see this." After she left, I stood there in the silence of my garage, surrounded by the tools and projects that had become my refuge. The truth was crystallizing in my mind like ice forming on a windshield. Kayla wasn't trying to prove my faithfulness, she was trying to prove hers. And the best defense, as they say, is a good offense. I pulled out my phone and Googled the number for Cheaters. If my wife wanted to play games with reality TV, I'd give her a show she'd never forget. The producer's name was Rick Martinez, and he sounded like he'd been waiting his whole career for a call like mine. "So, let me get this straight," he said, his voice crackling through my phone at 6 a.m. "Your wife booked you on the show, but you think she's the one who's cheating?" "I don't think it, Rick. I know it." I sipped my coffee and watched through the kitchen window as Kayla loaded her car with an overnight bag for a supposed day of filming. She's been working late 3 nights a week for the past 2 months, always the same nights, always until exactly 10:30 p.m. Her phone is password protected now, and she takes it everywhere, even to the bathroom. "That's circumstantial," Rick said, but I could hear the interest in his voice. "There's more. New clothes, expensive ones that she claims are from discount stores, receipts that don't match the stores she says she shopped at, and yesterday, I found a restaurant receipt in her purse for a place she's never taken me to. Dinner for 2, wine, dessert, $140 tab. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories." Rick was quiet for a moment. "What do you want from us, Aaron?" "I want you to follow her, not me. I'll give you her schedule, her phone records from our family plan, and copies of those receipts. But here's the thing. She can't know I'm the one who tipped you off. As far as she knows, you're following me because that's what she arranged." "This could get messy," Rick warned. "It's already messy. I'm just cleaning house." By 7:30, I was in my garage, pretending to organize tools while the Cheaters crew set up their equipment. Rick introduced me to his cameraman, Danny, and a sound tech named Lisa. They were younger than I'd expected, probably in their 20s, with the eager energy of people who thought they were making important television. "So, Aaron," Rick said, adjusting his wireless microphone, "tell us why you agreed to be on the show." I looked directly into the camera. "My wife thinks I'm boring. She thinks I'm predictable. She booked this to prove that I'm exactly what she says I am, a simple guy with simple habits who never surprises anyone." "And are you?" Rick prompted. I smiled. "I guess we'll find out." At 8:15, Kayla emerged from the house in a navy blue dress that hugged her curves. She'd lost 15 pounds in the past few months. Another red flag I'd filed away. She kissed my cheek for the cameras, her lips barely making contact. "Have fun today, honey," she said. "Try not to bore them to tears." "Where are you headed?" I asked innocently. "The office, then showing houses all day." "You know, actual work." She glanced at the camera crew. "Unlike some people, I can't spend my day playing with tools." After she drove away, Rick turned to me. "She's got quite an attitude." "She wasn't always like this," I said, and meant it. Something changed about 6 months ago. She became different, distant, critical. "What do you think happened 6 months ago?" I pretended to think about it. "That's when she started working with the new guy at her office. Walter something. She mentioned him a few times, said he was teaching her about commercial real estate." Rick and Danny exchanged glances. "Walter got a last name?" "Brennan, I think. Drives a red Camaro, thinks he's still 25, even though he's pushing 50. I shrugged. Kayla says he's just a colleague, but she sure talks about him a lot for someone she barely knows. "All right, Aaron," Rick said. "Here's what we're going to do. We'll follow you for a couple hours, get some footage of your routine, but then we're going to take a little detour and check out your wife's day. If she's clean, no harm done. If she's not, then I want it all on camera. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment of her thinking she's smarter than everyone else." Rick grinned. "Now that's what I call good television." My normal Tuesday routine was exactly as boring as Kayla had predicted. I drove to Henderson's Auto Repair, where I'd been working as a mechanic for the past 5 years. The crew filmed me changing oil, rotating tires, and diagnosing a transmission problem on a Honda Civic. Danny seemed genuinely interested in the work, asking questions about the tools and techniques. "How long have you been doing this?" he asked while I explained the intricacies of a fuel injection system. 23 years, if you count my time at the plant before it closed down." I wiped my hands on a shop rag. "Started when I was 19, right out of high school. Learned everything I know from guys who'd been turning wrenches since before I was born." "Must be satisfying work," Lisa observed. "It is. There's something honest about fixing things. A car either runs or it doesn't. No politics, no games, no lies. Just problem and solution." Around 11 a.m., Rick got a call on his cell phone. He stepped away to take it, speaking in hushed tones. When he came back, his expression was serious. "Aaron, we need to talk, privately." We walked outside, leaving Danny and Lisa to film some establishing shots of the garage. "Our surveillance team just called," Rick said. "Your wife didn't go to her office this morning. She drove straight to the Marriott downtown and met a man matching your description of Walter Brennan. They're in the restaurant having what looks like a very intimate breakfast." The confirmation hit me like a punch to the gut, even though I'd been expecting it. Knowing something and having it confirmed are two different animals entirely. "Are you getting this on camera?" I asked. "Every second. But Aaron, I have to ask, are you sure you want to see this? Once we go down this road, there's no going back." I thought about 18 years of marriage. 18 years of supporting Kayla's dreams, of working extra hours to pay for her education, of believing her when she said she was working late. 18 years of being treated like I was lucky to have her, when the truth was she'd been planning her exit strategy all along. "I'm sure," I said. "Let's go catch my wife in the act." The Marriott was a 20-minute drive from the garage. Rick had arranged for a second camera crew to be waiting in the lobby, posing as hotel guests. The plan was simple: confront Kayla and Walter while they were together, capture their reactions, and let the truth speak for itself. "There," Rick pointed toward the restaurant entrance. "Red Camaro in the parking lot, license plate WB 2019. That your guy?" I nodded. Walter Brennan's car was impossible to miss. A cherry red 2019 Camaro with custom rims and tinted windows, the kind of car a man buys when he's having a midlife crisis and wants everyone to know about it. "What's the plan?" I asked. "We go in, find their table, and I do the talking. You just stand there and let your face tell the story. Don't say anything unless I ask you a direct question, and whatever you do, don't lose your temper. We want this to look professional, not like some Jerry Springer episode." "I'm not going to lose my temper," I said, and I meant it. Anger was a luxury I couldn't afford. What I needed was cold, calculated justice. We entered the restaurant, cameras rolling. It took less than 30 seconds to spot them. Kayla and Walter were sitting in a corner booth, her hand covering his on the table, both of them laughing at some private joke. She looked happier than I'd seen her in months. Walter was exactly what I'd expected. Tanned, well-dressed, with the kind of confident smile that came from never having to worry about making ends meet. His hair was perfectly styled, his shirt was pressed, and his watch probably cost more than I made in 2 months. Rick approached their table with the camera crew behind him. "Excuse me, are you Kayla Taylor?" Kayla's head snapped up, her face going pale when she saw the cameras. What are you doing here?" "I'm Rick Martinez from Cheaters. You called our show yesterday about your husband Aaron, remember?" "Yes, but you're supposed to be following him, not me." "Well, that's the thing about investigations, Kayla. Sometimes they take unexpected turns." Rick gestured for me to step forward. "Aaron, would you like to tell us what you see here?" I looked at my wife, sitting across from another man, her hand still on his, her face a mask of panic and guilt. This was the moment I'd been preparing for, the confrontation that would change everything. "I see my wife having breakfast with Walter Brennan," I said calmly. "The same Walter she's been working late with 3 nights a week for the past 2 months?" Walter stood up so fast he knocked over his coffee cup, sending brown liquid cascading across the white tablecloth. "Who the heck are you people? You can't just barge in here with cameras." "Actually, we can," Rick said smoothly. "This is a public place, and we have every legal right to film here. The question is, what are you and Mrs. Taylor doing here when she told her husband she'd be at work?" Kayla finally found her voice. "This is a business meeting. Walter is showing me commercial properties, and we were discussing the details over breakfast." "At the Marriott?" I asked. "Since when do you meet clients at hotels?" "It's convenient," she snapped. "Not that I need to explain my business practices to you." Walter stepped closer to me, trying to use his height advantage for intimidation. He was about 3 inches taller and probably 30 pounds heavier, with the soft bulk of a man who spent more time at restaurants than at the gym. "Look, buddy," he said, "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but Kayla and I are colleagues. Nothing more." "Colleagues who hold hands during business meetings?" Danny asked from behind the camera. Walter's face flushed red. "We weren't holding hands." "We have it on film," Rick said. "Would you like to see the footage?" The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Kayla was calculating. I could see it in her eyes. She was trying to figure out how to spin this, how to make herself the victim instead of the guilty party. "Aaron," she said finally, "I can't believe you'd embarrass me like this. Following me around with cameras, making accusations. What's wrong with you?" "What's wrong with me?" I repeated. "What's wrong with me is that my wife has been lying to me for months. What's wrong with me is that I trusted you when you said you were working late, when you were really here with him." "You don't know what you're talking about," Kayla said, but her voice lacked conviction. Rick pulled out his phone. "Actually, we have quite a bit of evidence. Aaron provided us with your phone records showing multiple calls and texts to Walter's number. We have credit card receipts for dinners at restaurants you never mentioned to your husband. We have photos of you leaving this hotel on 3 separate occasions in the past month." Walter's confidence crumbled. "How did you get photos?" "We've been investigating this for weeks," Rick lied smoothly. "Aaron contacted us because he suspected something was going on. He just wanted to know the truth." Kayla turned to me, her eyes blazing with fury. "You set me up. You knew about Walter, and you set me up." "I suspected," I corrected. "There's a difference. If you'd been faithful, there would have been nothing to find." "This is ridiculous," Walter interjected. "Even if Kayla and I were involved, which we're not saying we are, that's between her and her husband. It's none of your business?" "It became our business when she called our show," Rick said. "She wanted to prove her husband was boring and predictable. Turns out she was half right. Aaron is predictable, predictably faithful to his marriage vows." Kayla gathered her purse and stood up. "I'm not listening to any more of this. Come on, Walter, we're leaving." "Actually," Rick said, "we'd like to ask you a few more questions. For instance, where were you planning to go after breakfast? Back to the office, or maybe upstairs to one of the rooms?" The question hit its mark. Kayla's face went white, and Walter started backing toward the exit. "We're not answering any more questions," Kayla said, "and if you air any of this footage, I'll sue you for invasion of privacy." "You can try," Rick said cheerfully, "but you signed a release when you booked your husband on the show. That release covers any footage we obtained during our investigation, including footage of you." I watched my wife of 18 years storm out of the restaurant, her lover trailing behind her like a whipped dog. Part of me felt sorry for her, the part that remembered the young woman I'd married, full of dreams and ambitions. But that woman was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. "How do you feel, Aaron?" Rick asked, turning the camera on me. "Vindicated," I said. "And tired. Really, really tired." The footage aired 3 weeks later on a Tuesday night. Rick had called me the day before to give me a heads up, but nothing could have prepared me for seeing my marriage collapse on national television. They'd edited it well, I had to admit. The story was clear and compelling. Faithful husband suspects cheating wife, Wife tries to turn the tables by putting him on reality TV. Plan backfires spectacularly. The confrontation at the Marriott was the centerpiece, but they'd also included follow-up footage of Kayla and Walter leaving together, getting into his red Camaro and driving to what the show's private investigator later confirmed was Walter's apartment across town. My phone started ringing during the commercial breaks. Old friends from the plant, guys from the garage, even my sister calling from Phoenix. Everyone wanted to know how I was holding up, if I was okay, if I needed anything. Kayla had moved out 2 days after the restaurant confrontation, taking half our furniture and most of our savings. She'd hired a lawyer and was demanding alimony, claiming I'd destroyed her reputation and her career by ambushing her on television. "She's got some nerve," said Tom Henderson, my boss at the garage. We were working late on a particularly stubborn transmission, and he'd brought a 6-pack of beer to commemorate my television debut. "Woman cheats on you for months, then tries to make you the bad guy when she gets caught." "That's Kayla," I said, accepting a beer. Never met a situation she couldn't spin to make herself the victim. "What are you going to do about the divorce?" I'd been thinking about that question for weeks. The smart thing would be to hire my own lawyer, fight for half of everything, try to minimize the alimony payments. The satisfying thing would be something else entirely. "I'm going to give her exactly what she wants," I said. Tom looked confused. "Come again?" "She wants out of this marriage, Tom. She wants to be with Walter. She wants to start over. She wants to pretend the last 18 years never happened. So I'm going to let her." "Aaron, that's crazy. She's going to take you for everything you've got." "Maybe. Or maybe she's going to find out that getting what you want isn't always the same as getting what you need." The truth was, I had a plan. It wasn't complicated, and it wasn't particularly clever, but it was thorough. Kayla thought she knew me, thought I was predictable and boring and easy to manipulate. She was about to learn otherwise. The first part of my plan was already in motion. The day after the show aired, I'd received a call from Janet Morrison, the broker who owned the real estate office where Kayla worked. Janet had seen the episode and was, to put it mildly, displeased with the publicity. "I can't have agents conducting personal business at hotels and calling it work," Janet had said. "It reflects poorly on the entire agency. I'm sorry, Aaron, but I'm going to have to let Kayla go." I'd expressed appropriate sympathy while privately celebrating. Kayla's job had been her source of independence, her proof that she didn't need me anymore. Without it, she'd be dependent on Walter's income, and from what I'd learned about Walter's finances, that wasn't going to work out well for either of them. The second part of my plan required more patience. Walter Brennan worked for Premier Auto Sales, one of the largest car dealerships in the city. He was a finance manager, responsible for arranging loans and handling paperwork for customers. It was a position that required trust, integrity, and a clean reputation. I'd done my research on Walter, and what I'd found was interesting. He'd been married twice before, both marriages ending in divorce due to his infidelity. He had a gambling problem that he thought he'd kept secret, and he owed money to several bookmakers around town. Most importantly, he'd been skimming money from customer down payments for the past year, using the cash to pay off his debts and fund his lifestyle. All of this information was sitting in a manila envelope on my kitchen table, along with copies of bank records, photographs, and witness statements I'd gathered over the past month. Tomorrow morning, that envelope would find its way to the desk of Premier Auto Sales' general manager, along with a note explaining that a concerned citizen thought the company should know what kind of person they had handling their money. The third part of my plan was the most satisfying. Kayla had always prided herself on her social status, her reputation in the community. She'd worked hard to cultivate an image of success and sophistication, joining the right clubs, attending the right events, making friends with the right people. That image was already cracking. The Cheaters episode had been seen by half the town, and the gossip mill was working overtime. But I wasn't content to let natural consequences run their course. I had help. Sharon Martinez, no relation to Rick from the TV show, worked at the boxing gym where I'd started training after Kayla moved out. She was tough, smart, and had her own reasons for wanting to see my wife taken down a peg. It turned out that Sharon and Kayla had been friends in college, until Kayla had stolen Sharon's boyfriend during their senior year. Sharon had never forgotten, and she'd never forgiven. Kayla always thought she was better than everyone else, Sharon had told me over coffee the week before. Even in college, she acted like the rules didn't apply to her, like she could do whatever she wanted and never face consequences. "Well," I'd said, "maybe it's time she learned otherwise." Sharon had smiled, a cold, calculating expression that reminded me of a predator sizing up prey. "I think I can help with that." 3 months after the Cheaters episode aired, Kayla's carefully constructed new life began falling apart like a house of cards in a windstorm. Walter lost his job first. The envelope I'd sent to Premier Auto Sales had done its work perfectly. An internal audit revealed exactly what I'd suspected. Walter had been stealing from customer down payments, using the money to pay gambling debts and finance his affair with my wife. The company fired him immediately and turned the evidence over to the police. He was arrested on embezzlement charges 2 days later. Kayla called me that night, crying and desperate. "Aaron, please, you have to help us. Walter's in jail, and they're saying he stole money. It's all a mistake, it has to be." "Is it?" I asked calmly. "Because from what I heard, they have pretty solid evidence. You don't understand. Without his job, we can't afford the apartment. I don't have work either, and my savings are almost gone. I need help." "What kind of help?" "A loan. Just temporary until we get back on our feet. I know things ended badly between us, but we were married for 18 years. That has to count for something." I let the silence stretch between us. Outside my kitchen window, I could see Sharon working in her garden. We'd been spending a lot of time together lately, and I was starting to think there might be something real developing between us. "How much do you need?" I asked finally. 5,000, maybe 10. I know it's a lot, but it's not happening, Kayla." "What?" I said no. You made your choice when you decided to cheat on me. You made your choice when you tried to humiliate me on television. You made your choice when you moved in with Walter and started planning your new life. Now you get to live with the consequences. Aaron, please, I'm desperate. You should have thought about that before you threw away our marriage." I hung up and turned off my phone. I wasn't proud of enjoying her desperation, but I wasn't ashamed of it either. For 18 years, I'd been the reliable one, the predictable one, the one who cleaned up messes and solved problems. Now it was Kayla's turn to figure things out on her own. The final piece of my plan fell into place 2 weeks later. Sharon had been busy spreading carefully selected truths about Kayla's situation throughout their old social circle. The story was simple and devastating. Kayla had cheated on her faithful husband, lost her job due to unprofessional conduct, and was now living with a man who'd been arrested for embezzlement. The social consequences were swift and brutal. Kayla was dropped from the country club where she'd been a member for 5 years. Her former friends stopped returning her calls. The charity organizations where she'd volunteered asked her to step down from her positions. "It's not fair," she complained to anyone who would listen. "I'm not responsible for what Walter did. I didn't know he was stealing money." But the damage was done. In a town where reputation was everything, Kayla had become persona non grata. She was the woman who'd destroyed her marriage for a criminal, the cautionary tale that other wives whispered about over lunch. I ran into her at the grocery store on a Thursday evening in late October. She looked terrible, thin, tired, wearing clothes I recognized from our marriage. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wasn't wearing makeup. "Aaron," she said, stopping her cart in the middle of the cereal aisle. "I've been trying to call you." "I know, I've been busy." "With what? That woman from the gym?" I didn't answer. Sharon and I had been keeping our relationship quiet, but in a small town, secrets don't stay secret for long. "She's using you," Kayla said. "Sharon Martinez has hated me since college. She's only interested in you because it hurts me." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe she's interested in me because I'm a decent man who deserves better than what I got from you." Kayla's eyes filled with tears. "I made mistakes, Aaron. I know that. But what you've done to me, what you've done to Walter, it's cruel. It's not like you." "You're right," I said. "The old Aaron would have forgiven you. He would have taken you back, pretended nothing happened, and spent the rest of his life wondering when you'd cheat again, but that Aaron died in the Marriott restaurant the day I watched you hold another man's hand. So what now? You're going to destroy my entire life because I made one mistake?" "One mistake?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Kayla, you didn't make one mistake. You made 1,000 small choices that led to betraying our marriage. You chose to lie to me every day for months. You chose to spend our money on another man. You chose to try to humiliate me on national television. And when you got caught, you chose to blame me instead of taking responsibility." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I'm sorry. I'm truly, genuinely sorry. What more do you want from me?" I looked at this woman I'd once loved, this stranger wearing my wife's face, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. "I don't want anything from you, Kayla. That's the point. For 18 years, I wanted your love, your respect, your faithfulness. I wanted you to see me as a partner instead of a burden. I wanted you to appreciate what we had instead of always looking for something better." I pushed my cart past her, then stopped and turned back. "But I don't want any of that anymore. I'm done wanting things from you, and that, more than anything else, should scare you." I left her standing there in the cereal aisle, crying over a shopping cart full of generic brands and discount groceries. It was the last time we ever spoke. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks later. Kayla got half of our remaining assets, which amounted to less than she'd expected after legal fees and the money she'd already spent. I kept the house, the garage, and my self-respect. Walter was sentenced to 2 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution to Premier Auto Sales. Kayla moved back in with her mother in the next county, a 45-year-old woman starting over with nothing but regrets and a hard-learned lesson about consequences. As for me, I married Sharon the following spring in a small ceremony at the courthouse. We honeymooned in Colorado, hiking through mountains and breathing clean air. When people asked how we met, we told them we'd found each other at exactly the right time, when we both needed someone who understood that love isn't just about romance, it's about loyalty, trust, and keeping your promises even when nobody's watching. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Kayla and wonder if she ever truly understood what she'd lost. But then Sharon rolls over in her sleep and puts her arm around me, and I remember that some questions aren't worth asking. Some chapters are better left closed. The cameras stopped rolling long ago, but the story they captured changed everything. Not because it exposed the truth, I'd known the truth for months, but because it forced everyone else to see it too, and sometimes that's the only justice you can get. In the end, Kayla was right about one thing. I am predictable. I'm predictably loyal to people who deserve it, and predictably done with people who don't. She just never bothered to figure out which category she'd put herself in. That was her mistake, not mine.